I live in what most people would call a pretty nice neighborhood. You know the type. Manicured lawns, identical mailboxes, and a homeowners association, or HOA, that has an opinion on everything. My story starts about a year ago. I work as a helicopter pilot, mostly doing private charters and medical transport. It's a demanding job, but I love Italiano. My dream was always to have a helipad at my own home, so I could cut down on my commute to the hangar and have more flexibility. So, I did my homework. I checked all the local zoning laws, got the necessary permits from the FAA, and confirmed with the city that a residential helipad was permissible on a property of my size. I spent a small fortune on construction, soundproofing, and ensuring everything was up to the highest safety standards. I thought I had all my bases covered. I was wrong. The moment the construction crew broke ground, the HOA went into a full-blown meltdown, and leading the charge was a woman we'll call Karen. Karen was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, a woman who seemed to derive her life, its purpose from measuring the height of her neighbor's grass and timing how long their trash cans were left at the curb. My helipad was her personal declaration of war. She claimed it was a noisy, dangerous eyesore that would plummet property values. She rallied a small but very vocal group of neighbors, and the official complaint letters started pouring in. The HOA, with Karen at the helm, filed a formal case against me. They argued that even though the city and the FAA said I could have a helipad, their own bylaws, which were conveniently vague on the topic of private aviation, gave them the authority to deny it. Their argument was that it disturbed the aesthetic harmony of the neighborhood. Aesthetic harmony. I was staring down the barrel of a protracted legal battle. I'd sunk my life savings into this project, and the thought of having to tear it down was just devastating. The legal fees started piling up. My lawyer was optimistic, but warned me that battles with HOAs could get ugly and expensive. Karen, meanwhile, was relentless. She'd stand at her window with binoculars every time I even walked near the helipad. She'd send passive-aggressive emails to the entire neighborhood about disruptive elements. It was incredibly stressful. The case was scheduled for a hearing, and I was preparing for the worst. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. It was a stormy day, with dark clouds and torrential rain. I was in my home office when I heard the unmistakable thumping sound of a helicopter, and it was getting closer, fast. This wasn't one of my scheduled flights. I ran outside, and through the downpour, I saw a large, official-looking helicopter descending rapidly towards my property. It was clearly in distress, struggling against the fierce winds. I realized immediately what was happening. They were in trouble and needed to make an emergency landing. My helipad was the only safe, clear spot for miles. I grabbed my radio and started communicating with the pilot, guiding them in through the storm. It was a tense few minutes, but they touched down safely. The rotors spun down, and the side doors slid open. Out stepped a team of security personnel, followed by the state governor. The governor and his pilot had been en route to a conference when their helicopter was caught in a severe The instruments were going haywire, and the pilot made the call to land at the nearest available site, which happened to be my helipad, glowing on his emergency navigation system. The governor, looking a bit shaken but unharmed, walked over and shook my hand. He thanked me profusely, saying that my facility had very likely saved their lives. Now, guess who was watching this entire drama unfold from her window with her trusty binoculars? That's right, Karen. I can only imagine the look on her face as the governor of the entire state stepped out of a helicopter on the very helipad she was trying to destroy. The local news crews, alerted by the governor's office, arrived within minutes. The story was everywhere. Local pilot's private helipad saves governor in mid-air emergency. I was hailed as a local hero. The governor's office issued a public statement commending my foresight and preparedness. The news articles highlighted how my private facility had served a crucial public safety role. The narrative had completely flipped. My helipad wasn't a nuisance. It was a life-saving asset. The public support was overwhelming. The next HOA meeting was a sight to behold. Karen tried to bring up the case against my helipad, but she was basically laughed out of the room. The other board members, seeing the tide of public opinion and not wanting to look like they were opposing the man who just saved the governor, quickly backed. They said there had been a misunderstanding of T-bylaw. Within a week, the HOA officially dropped the case. I received a letter, not of apology, but one that stated they recognized the helipad's potential community value. And Karen, She was strangely quiet after that. She resigned from the HOA board a month later, citing personal reasons. I haven't heard a peep from her since. Sometimes I see her glaring at my house, but she never says a word. The governor even sent me a personal commendation, which is now framed and hanging right next to my pilot's license. So, in the end, it took a literal act of God and an emergency landing by the state's highest official to shut down an HOA, Karen. Life is funny that way. My helipad is now a permanent fixture, and my commute is fantastic. Thanks for watching my story, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more.